The Charleston housing market just took a shift we haven't seen since 2021, and the data I'm about to show you might just shock you. Charleston has seen a boom over the past 3 years, but the last 90 days, the game has completely changed. Here's the thing, some people are running from this change thinking it's going to be the end of the housing market, but other people see big opportunity. The key is knowing which side you want to be on. I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. I'm going to show you exactly what the data says and explain what's driving these changes. My plan is to give you real guidance based on what we're seeing every single day in the Charleston market. First thing we're going to talk about is the inventory surge. For the first time in 3 years, buyers have options again. Total homes for sale in Charleston are at 5,300 homes for sale as of September 2025. That's up 14.5% compared to last year. Month supply of inventory went up to 3.6 months, which is a 12.5% increase from 3.1 months last year. This comes from the Charleston Trident Association of Realtors for September 2025. A balanced market usually has about 6 months of homes for sale. So at 3.6 months of homes for sale, we're in a seller's market. But here's what matters, and this connects directly to what's happening with prices, which I'm going to show you in a few minutes. We're going to look at the trend. In Charleston, we've gone from way too few homes for sale to way more homes available. For years, buyers in Charleston were making decisions out of panic. You'd see a house and you'd have to write an offer that night because maybe it would sell the next day without somebody even seeing it, and all cash. So you waived every inspection contingency because you didn't want the next buyer to buy it without you getting that house right then. But before we get to pricing, you need to see what's happening with how long these homes are sitting on the market, because that number tells you everything you need to know about how the power is shifting from sellers over to buyers. Now let's look at days on the market. If there's one number that could tell a whole story of the Charleston market shift, it's this one. Charleston County, 76 days on market is up 15% from 66 days last September. In 2021 and 2022, during the peak of Charleston sellers market, the average home went under contract in just 20 days. So when a home sells in less than a couple of weeks, sellers have all the leverage. But when a home has been sitting for 60 or 70 or even 80 days, the seller is getting nervous. This is exactly why you need to understand who's left the market. I'm going to break that down for you in just a bit, but that matters so much more for your negotiating power. On our team, we've been seeing buyers able to negotiate substantial amounts off asking price when homes have been sitting on the market for longer than 2 months. That kind of negotiating power, we haven't seen that since before COVID. And here's some more proof. 31.2% of all homes for sale in Charleston have dropped their price. That's 1 in 3 homes where the seller started too high and said the market was telling it no. This comes from Redfin's September 2025 report. The average home is selling for 97% asking price, which is down 1.4% from last year. In a market where homes were selling for 100 to 105% asking price just 2 years ago, 3% off is a big deal for the average. And in some cases, we're able to negotiate 10% or more off of the price of a home if it's been sitting for a while. I've heard of some sellers who said they priced right but got no showings. And the reason is there's just not enough buyers for all the houses that are on the market. But here's where it gets interesting. You might be thinking, well, if homes are sitting longer, more homes for sale, prices have got to be dropping, right? But hold on. Before we look at what's happening with prices, there's one massive factor we need to talk about first. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, the interest rate. If you've been waiting for interest rates to drop back to 3% before you buy, I got to be honest with you. The 30-year fixed mortgage rate is at 6.27% as of October 16, 2025, according to Freddie Mac. These rates have stayed in the 6% to 7% range for the last few years. On a $600,000 home, which is the median price in Charleston right now, the difference between 3% rate and 6.27% rate is about $1,100 a month of mortgage payment. That's $14,000 more per year just in interest payments. And if you're looking at a second home, like a beach property, especially in places like Isle of Palms or Sullivan's Island or Folly Beach, you're looking at rates maybe in the 7 to 8% range, which is exactly why when I show you who stepped out of the market completely in just a minute, you'll understand why beach properties are sitting sitting longer than anything else right now. Vacation home buyers were super active in 2021 and 2022, and they've mostly stepped back because the numbers just don't seem to work anymore. Here's what Freddie Mac said in October 16, 2025 report. Combined with increasing housing inventory and slower house prices, these rates are also creating a more favorable environment for those looking to buy a home. Here's my take after 20 years of the real estate business in Charleston. You can't time interest rates any more than you can time the stock market. If you wait for 3% rates to come back, you might be waiting for a decade or even two. The question is, does buying a home make sense for you right now? Because you can always refinance if the rates come down later, but you can't go back in time and get today's prices. So here's the million-dollar question. With everything I've told you, more inventory, longer time in the market, higher rates, you'd think prices would be falling. But Charleston is doing something that is perplexing to everyone. Now, let's look at pricing. Here's what's wild. Even with more inventory and homes sitting on the market longer and interest rates at 6.27%, Charleston home prices have not fallen. In fact, the bigger Charleston area, they're going up. Charleston City median sales price, $600,000. If you look across the entire Tri-County region, Charleston, Dorchester, and Berkeley counties, the median sales price is $425,000 in 2025 and up 2.7% from 2024. This is what a normalizing market looks like. It's not a crash. It's not a boom. It's just steady, modest price growth with kind of flat prices that are just barely going up. So why haven't prices fallen in Charleston? Look, South Carolina jobs grew at 3.1% last year as of August of 2025. The Charleston metro area had 3.2% job growth, tied for sixth fastest in the entire United States. And this job growth is exactly why when we look at who's still buying homes in Charleston, you'll see that relocators moving here for work are keeping this market from dropping. And when you have a strong job growth and more people moving in, that puts a floor under home prices, which we're seeing. A $600,000 home in Charleston gets you way more house than a $600,000 home in DC or near New York because of our property taxes. Taxes in Charleston for a $600,000 home are going to run you about $4,000 a year for a primary residence, but it could be over $20,000 or even $25,000 a year for the same type of house in the Northeast. Now, prices by price range tell different stories. The luxury markets, especially the beach communities, have slowed down significantly. And the entry-level range, the $300,000 to $400,000 homes in places like Somerville or Hanahan or Goose Creek are crazy competitive. That middle market, the $500,000 to $800,000, that's where you see some great negotiation happening right now. The 15 to 20% jumps in home values we saw in 2021 and 2022, that was not sustainable. What we're seeing now, 2% to 4% price growth per year, is really healthy. This is what lets people build wealth in their real estate portfolio over time without creating a bubble that will burst. But here's where all this comes together. There's one more piece to this puzzle that explains everything. Let me tell you about who's actually buying homes in Charleston right now and who's not. Now we're to buyer pool transformation. The Charleston market isn't just slower. Who's buying has totally shifted, and this explains everything you're about to see. Let's start with who stepped back. Second home buyers have mostly frozen up and stepped back, with interest rates at 6.5 or 6.2%, and they're higher if it's your second home, maybe 7% or 8%. That money is really expensive, and people are sitting on the sidelines and not buying that vacation beach home. Beach towns like Isle of Palms, Sullivan's Island, and Folly Beach are some of the coldest markets in all of Charleston right now. Once rates come down and borrowing money gets cheaper again, I think these beach communities are going to come back and you're going to see prices start to increase in those areas. But right now, for the end of 2025 and 2026, I think there's bargains to be had in the beach communities of Charleston. Now, some buyers who've been focusing on investment properties, especially in that short-term rental area, have also pulled back. Higher borrowing costs have changed that financial calculation. So we're just seeing fewer investment buyers jumping in. But why are prices still going up for most of Charleston? And that's because people are moving to Charleston for jobs. This is still the strongest part of Charleston's real estate segments. We're seeing strong demand from corporate relocations, from military families close to the Charleston Air Force Base, and for professionals that are taking jobs here in the medical fields and in the tech industry and in areas that are supporting Boeing and manufacturing. Then you have buyers with substantial equity. People from other states are selling really expensive homes and finding Charleston really accessible. Some people will sell a $900,000 home or a $1.5 million home in the New York, New Jersey, DC area, and then they can get a really great home here in Charleston for under under $1 million. And they're not deterred by 6% interest rates because they put down a large chunk of money with that equity buyout that they had from their last house. Also, local buyers are trading up in this market. Charleston homeowners who bought homes years ago have built up substantial equity from that boom of prices through COVID. So they've got big chunks of down payment to put down on houses, and that brings their cost of mortgage way down. You bought a house in 2015 or 2018, you probably have at least $300,000 of equity in your Charleston home. First-time home buyers in Charleston are facing a tougher combination because you got higher prices today than we had a few years ago and high interest rates. But those buyers are gravitating to Somerville, Goose Creek, and Hanahan, where prices are still under $400,000 for a great home. Different price ranges are moving at different speeds. Of course, the luxury market is our slowest market, but the starter homes in more accessible areas are really competitive and might move in less than 30 days. That middle market, the $500,000 to $800,000, it sees some negotiation, and you're seeing homes in that market sit for 70 to 80 days on average, which gives you some power to talk some numbers off of that price. Even with this shift, while most of the country is in a buyer's market, Charleston is in a seller's market. We've shifted from a severe seller's market to a mild seller's market. And for buyers who've been waiting, this is your window. So if you know all 5 of these factors, let me tell you exactly what you should do with all this information. All right, now here's your turn to act. Look, the Charleston market has shifted. We've gone from a crazy frenzy seller's market to a more balanced market. And honestly, that creates opportunities for people who understand what's happening. If you are serious about buying or selling in Charleston right now, reach out to me, Matt O'Neill, at sales@mattoneillteam.com. I'll give you a free consultation, analyze your specific situation, and show you exactly how to take advantage of this market shift in 2026. No pressure, just honest guidance from a team that has closed over $3 billion in Charleston real estate and helped 5,000 families move to this area. Now, before you decide anything about Charleston, you need to watch my next video where I break down the real pros and the cons of living here. I cover the incredible food scene, the outdoor lifestyle, but also some real talk about hurricanes, brutal traffic, heat, and extra costs that you might not expect. So if you're thinking of moving here, this video could save you from making a huge mistake. Watch that video right here and drop a comment below. Are you buying, selling, or just watching the market? I read every comment and I answer your questions. Thanks for watching. I'm Matt O'Neill, and I'll see you on the next video.